Good morning, he's, she's, theys, and castaways, and welcome to the weekly recap.
You know, it's odd. We're starting on Zoom. It's a lot like Juno, honestly. Two faces on a Zoom call, talking to a whole bunch of people who probably won't pay attention. They'll be on their phone, but that's all right. So you're probably wondering what this is. We're here to bring you a recap of every week of Denison Survivor. So everything you need to know from who gets voted out to what's happening in tribes, drama-wise, we got it. We got the tea. We got
So
it.
far, no one's voted out yet, so we don't have that.
No,
But
not this week. We're just here to introduce the concept, introduce what's going on so far, and how season two of Survivor is starting off.
yep, okay. So starting off, we're introducing the castaways.
So, the first castaway we have here is Evan. He's on the Funky Flamingos. He's currently sixth place in terms of uh
Challenges.
yeah, challenges. We just had a challenge
Active one.
recently. The
So the first
we'll
challenge.
talk about it later. And in terms of draft picks, he has nine people casting him on their draft. And so far, he's making a very strategic game, a bit social, but it's a little risky right now. He's kind of being thrown under the bus by Liam.
He's kind of had some words about throwing, which not looking great for those 9 draft picks, but you know what? He also said he wanted to get second, so
Yeah,
kind
so maybe he's going to throw once he gets to second place. We'll see.
okay. Our second new castaway is Charlie on the Brainiacs. It was 16th place in the Temple Run Challenge. So far, the only challenge that has actual like metric results, and he has 2 draft picks.
Next up,
He's
we have
been very active on the server yet, but hopefully he will be.
Isabel on the Funky Flamingos. They placed 19th in the recent challenge, and they have 2 draft picks. Looking at the draft picks, based on the recent challenge, might be in danger. Might be a little bit in danger for the two who picked her, but we'll have to see. It's too early to call anything.
Yeah. Next is Cassidy on the Brainiacs. She got second place in the Temple Run Challenge and has a total of 12 draft picks, tied for first place in the amount of draft picks. And right now is kind of sporting a social game, fairly physical considering she got second place in the challenge. But for the most part, just like trying to strategize and talk to people. She's been fairly active on the server.
Yeah. And then next we have Liam on the Funky Flamingos. He placed ninth in the challenge, and he has 12 draft picks, tied with Cassidy on the Brainiacs. If anyone has been watching recently, Liam has been out there very strong to start with on a social game, networking with so many different castaways in his tribe, and he's currently throwing Evan under the bus. So there's a little bit of danger there if the plan backfires on who they pick to vote. Looks like Liam might actually be a top contender, and it's a good thing people picked him.
All right, our next contestant is Amy on the Brainiacs. She won first place in the challenge, over 1,000,000 points above the second place member. Really went above and beyond with that temple run. She has 3 draft picks, and her game is mostly physical at the moment. We haven't really seen much like strategy yet, but there obviously has been a big physical advantage. So that might be a danger when it comes to the merge, but that's so far away. We don't have to worry about that right now.
Right? Next up, we have Bobby on the Funky Flamingos. They placed 13th in the last challenge, and they only have 1 draft pick. We don't have too much information about Bobby. They've been laying low, but hey, they got in, they did a challenge, and they contributed to their team, which means something.
Our next contestant is Yo-Yo Will. He is on the Brainiacs tribe and got 7th place in the challenge, and he has 4 draft picks. People are really leaning towards him in the draft rather than the other Will. So I don't know how that will turn out, which Will is going to make it farther. He hasn't too much so far, but he's been decently active.
Yeah. Next, we have Matt on the Funky Flamingos. They placed 15th in the challenge, and if anyone tuned in last night, Monday night, caught in 650K. He lied about his score to his team and placed much lower than he was claiming. I mean,
Got only around like 300 something.
yeah, 650,000 really isn't that good compared to what the other Brainiacs were able to put out. And currently, he's only got 1 draft pick. Me.
Surprising because his tribe hasn't even noticed his lie. So
Yeah, no one's noticed, which is
good for
very
him.
interesting.
Yeah,
Good
he
for
wasn't
him.
even really a contestant that they were considering voting out.
Yeah,
Maybe it'll come back in the future.
we'll
I don't know.
see.
Our next castaway is Will B. He's on the Brainiacs tribe. He got 5th place in the Temple Run challenge and has 2 draft picks at the moment. Oh, we'll always have 2 draft picks. And so far his game has seemingly been strategic he wants to stick in the middle. He said in his confessional that he's just kind of try to coast by until he gets to near the end in the future. And honestly, albeit kind of a boring game, it is a very useful one because a lot of people, if they're slightly active but not overly active, people don't think about them enough, but they don't think about them negatively. So that might be, but also, who knows?
Look at last season with you, Sarah. You
well,
you
I
kind of
talked.
played. You talked, but you still played like kind of a quiet game according to the jurors, and that seemed to be
The jury
what
really thought I
lost
didn't do
it.
anything.
That seemed to be what made you 2nd place compared to Zoe.
Yeah.
Next up, yeah. Next up, we have Rachel on the Funky Flamingos. She placed 14th and has 4 draft picks. Not
There's
much.
a rumor going around that she has had sexual relations with my mother or someone's. She said that she's going to fuck your mom. So I don't know whose it is. It could be mine.
It could be mine.
2 hours away. It could be yours. Could be your mom.
She's 2 hours away from here as well.
Yeah, I don't know. Does Rachel have a car?
I don't think so.
How far will she go?
We'll have to see.
She really is in a built mood. Good for her. Good for her, honestly. All right, our next castaway is Duncan. He's on the Brainiacs. He did not submit a challenge. Apparently he had participated, he had tried, but he just forgot to put a screenshot in his confessional. That's what I'd heard at least.
Yeah.
So that put him in 21st place, but he still has 2 draft picks, which is pretty good for someone who didn't submit the challenge. And fortunately, the Brainiacs won the challenge, so he does not have to worry about the threat of being eliminated. And that's pretty good for Cassidy, who was really upset at the fact that he didn't put in a response.
Yeah, definitely. Cassidy and Duncan are very much networking together, and it's a good thing that the Brainiacs pulled through. Though I think, even though he submitted something in their tribe chat, I don't think he might have been that much in danger. I think what he had was very reasonable, a conflict of schedules, and he attempted, but just had an issue.
Yeah.
Next, we have Margaret on the Funky Flamingos, 10th place, 4 draft picks. Not doing much yet, but she's networking. She's talking with a few castaways, and honestly, we gotta wait for more and see where she'll go.
Yeah. She was in Columbus over the weekend for her dad's birthday, so that could have changed some of the dynamics, not being immersed in the Denison culture. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll have to see where this goes.
Speaking of being in Columbus, that also is an interesting situation for Isabel, considering she commutes. I wonder how that will affect her game. I didn't mention it when we were talking about her, but I wonder if that'll change anything in relation to how much she can do and can contribute, or if it'll actually like be beneficial to her because she's not here all the time and doesn't have to worry about seeing these people that, she might betray in the future every single day.
There might be an issue there with that and the fact that she may not connect well with other tribe members, and it might hinder her game when she gets into the future when it starts coming down to, okay, so who do you have as your relationships?
Yeah.
It could also work for her because she might be able to get by under the radar.
Yeah.
We'll have to see how that plays out and how knowledgeable the other castaways are.
And I mean, if it could just do nothing. Like we have no idea.
That is
Um,
true.
but our next castaway we're going to introduce is Claire on the Brainiacs. They were 20th place in the challenge, but they did submit a score and had one draft pick overall.
Next, we have Alec on the Funky Flamingos. He placed fourth in the last challenge and has 7 draft picks.
Next castaway is Ricky on the Brainiacs. He was 17th place in the challenge and currently has one draft pick. He hasn't really done much anything to hint at to what kind of game he has, but yeah, so that's really all we know.
Next, we have everyone's favorite, Jake, on the Funky Flamingos,
Yay.
placed 18th. No draft picks from anyone, which is, I mean, it's kind of surprising considering how active he is and how engaged he is. However, the nature of his activity seems hostile and kind of abrasive to his other castaways. Um, I know during the pre-launch, he posted that disgusting video of a Furby milk dispenser thing, and I said, I hope you get out immediately. I hope you're voted out immediately. And what do you know? It so far, based on what the other castaways are working with and the Funky Flamingos, he might actually be first to go. And
Yeah.
that's a good thing for everyone else because no one picked them for the draft. And getting
Yeah.
out this early on your draft is going to harm you big
And it'll
time.
also show how powerful Liam is, considering one of his first notions about Jake was, I do not like this man.
That
So
is true.
if he really scrapes it together and figures out how to vote him out immediately, it's a win.
We'll have to see tonight, 8 p.m., right?
Yep. Exciting stuff.
Woo!
Our next castaway is Caitlin. They're on the Brainiacs and got 11th place in the challenge, and one draft pick overall. But they haven't done so much so far, but I'm excited to see what will happen in the future.
And then we got Noah, but not our wonderful host Noah. The
Not no
Castaway
JP.
Noah. Castaway Noah. They are on the Funky Flamingos. They're 8th place. And they only received one draft pick. Not much going on with them so far.
No, not really, not yet. Our last castaway from the Brainiacs is Izzy. They're on the Brainiacs, and they got 3rd place in the challenge. Really, showing how the Brainiacs they really made the top 3, even though there were a lot of ones near the bottom. They're kind of playing more of a strategic and physical game, but they are chatting a lot. Confessional and their one-on-ones are used more than a lot of the other Brainiacs so far.
Yeah. Then last but not least for the Funky Flamingos, we have Abby. She's placed 12th in the last challenge and has 5 draft picks. Now, if you tuned in last season, you would know Abby didn't do much. She was a 28th. She placed 28th last season overall and was voted out really quickly just because she had very little activity, which I think is very interesting that she's come back this season. She started at the Outpost because she was an odd number. And eventually she made it over to the Funky Flamingos. And there's a little bit of a conversation of what to expect from her, mostly because she's a vet. People see her as a veteran, so maybe she's dangerous, but so far, she's not on anyone's radar to be voted out. I think everyone's just happy to have Abby on their team. Plus, for the five draft picks, they might actually get some good out of that because I have a feeling, based on how she worked last season, she's going all in this season and she's going to put effort in and make sure that she comes out on top and not so low on the bottom like she did last season.
She also has a green rock from the outpost. We don't really know what it does yet, and neither do the other castaways. The other castaways have no idea that she has a green rock. So it's interesting to see what that will do in the future. It could
Yeah,
be beneficial to a challenge or something else, secret inside, whatever.
her silly little green rock.
All right, now moving on to a little bit more of the draft. We kind of went over how many people were drafted. And in the future, we'll have more updates, especially once people start getting voted out.
Mhm.
But so far, the Funky Flamingos have the lead for the tribe with more draft picks. They have 46 with 57.5% of the total draft picks. But, it's not that great considering they just went to their first tribal council. But if the trajectory goes Jake, no harm done. The great British Jake off. It could be successful,
Could
and
be.
no draft picks were harmed in the voting off of the first Castaway.
Yeah. Then
Speculate.
we have the Brainiacs, 34 draft picks, which is only 42.5% of the total amount of people drafted. Um, Honestly, it's a bit interesting. I think when a lot of people were drafting, everyone saw how active the Funky Flamingos were and leaned more towards them, but the Brainiacs were kind of slept on. But based on that challenge, they really came out on top with some very powerful scores, and I have a feeling that they might actually do more than everyone's expecting.
Definitely. This tends to happen in the show itself too, where the tribe that everyone's rooting for is the one that keeps losing because they keep getting screen time. So everyone's like against the tribe that keeps winning all the challenges because they're boring and they don't know any of the characters very well. But in
Hmm.
here, I mean, if the Brainiacs are more active, I feel like the audience would really start to like them a little bit more because we don't have to, like video them and select which videos to post. We have all of it. You get to see everyone's thoughts all the time if they decide to tell you them.
Yeah. So let's move on to challenges. So we have had two challenges already. The first one was more of a reward challenge, and an identity kind of situation as well. Challenge one introduced the castaways to the first, bits and bobs of how Denison Survivor works. And it also established the identities of their tribes. Each tribe has flags, they got mascots, they even have, their names, of course. And we have the Funky Flamingos and Brainiacs from it all. Surprisingly enough, both wanted to do NFT flags for some reason, which is it's a choice. Not to mention, the Flamingos ended up winning that contest. The contest was who got most votes from production. Production overwhelmingly voted for the Funky Flamingos, while the Brainiacs only received a single vote.
From Zoe, right?
I think I don't remember.
She said she was giving them a pity vote.
It's a very interesting situation because already you see productions kind of looking towards, hey, we like the Funky Flamingos. Honestly, their flag, mascot, all that's pretty good. I like the name too, even though I keep mixing it up and want to say Flunky, but
I mean, they did flunk that first challenge, though.
they did, so maybe it's not too far off, and maybe that's why I keep trying to say Flunky. But since the Flamingos won that challenge, they got Abby, and now they have an extra person compared to the other tribe. However, tonight they're going to be tied again in the amount of people they have.
Yep. But who knows what'll happen?
We'll have to see. There's no immunity idols out there yet,
Not yet.
not to our knowledge.
All right. So moving on to challenge 2, this one's a little bit more interesting than the last one. Not that there was anything wrong with the last one, just that it's, it's more of a tribe members themselves. It's not as fun for the audience to watch people just talk about what their flag should look like. But it was great to see Alex's fan art. That was really fun.
Yeah.
The second challenge was Temple Run. It was run by Cassidy, the production host. Cassidy, the host. Which was fun. It was fun to see someone run a challenge that wasn't Noah.
Yeah.
He ran them all, basically. So the Flamingos were strong for a while because they were posting their in their confessionals a lot earlier. But the Brainiacs threw a bunch of results in at the end, and that caused them the win. They weren't really telling us how they were doing so far. Where the Flamingos were posting in their chat, in their confessional, almost constantly saying like, oh, I got this much better, this much higher. And that may be why Matt's little lie fell to the wayside. But so the Brainiacs did win, but it did take forever to get these people to put their results in their confessionals. There's so many of them that just put it in tribe chat, and we had to remind them to put them in their confessionals. So hopefully in the future, it won't be as hard to get people to put their results in their confessionals, because that may become a problem if no one's submitting results. But fortunately, everyone got results in.
Yeah. I guess, there's one thing about showing your teammates, hey, look how well I did. We can do it, guys. But there's another thing about not posting it in your confessional and then costing your team, and then you look like a little silly Billy.
Yeah, especially if your score is really high.
Yeah.
And this is a really important challenge because it shows who would be the strongest physical players in the game so far. And it also shows how much effort the Castaways are willing to put in.
Yeah.
The challenge. And there are people like, let's take Liam, for example. I thought he'd do a lot better in the first challenge just because, he's on Gaming Guild, but he didn't, but Cassidy, who the contestant, is on in Gaming Guild, and she did really well in the challenge.
Oh yeah, she knocked it out of the water.
Yeah. All right, now we're gonna move on to the tribe analysis, which we've kind of gone over a little bit. We don't want to hold you too long. Yeah.
Okay. So far we've been looking at what has happened, and it seems like the Flamingos are very out there and very active, surprisingly. It took a while last season for tribes to get up and running and just people to communicate and talk and network. But right now, everyone is just taking off and going right into it, which is very good in the sense that it's entertaining to watch. However, the Flamingos, while they're just this fan favorite, probably because of their flag and name and all that, and maybe their members, they're not performing that well so far. A lot of them performed poorly, and I'm wondering if it's because these kind of video game challenges aren't up their alley. So maybe we'll have to wait and see other challenges that don't result in like video games and see how well they do there.
Yep. And, the Brainiacs, we've kind of talked about this a little bit. They seem to be a little less active, but they did pull through with the challenge. I'm excited to see more from them, see what else they can do. But again, the Flamingos do seem to be more of a fan favorite considering of their flag, and because their draft picks are higher than the amount of draft picks for the Brainiacs, even though it's not by too much. They're nearly 50-50, but not quite.
Yeah.
Brainiacs just might want to step it up a little when it comes to interaction, just so that we can see more of them and, start to fall in love with the characters or the Castaways.
Yeah, I hope it's not just that because they won that they feel like, oh, we could lay around a little bit more. I hope this really like got them up on their feet, like, okay, wow, this is already starting. Consequences are already happening. We got to go.
Yeah. All right, now moving on to our next segment, which is the Castaway of the Week. We will be doing this every week. My pick for Castaway of the Week is Liam. He has been putting so much effort in, and he's posted so many little videos into his confessional, which are fun to watch. And, really adds this little spice to his character. I don't know if I want him to win exactly, but I will be sad to see him go whenever he gets voted off, which is clearly not soon because most of the people thrown out were thrown out by him or by someone else, and we're assuming if the Great British Jake Off goes well, then he might be a powerhouse this season. It is a little threatening to some of the other castaways that he's trying to control the game at this point, but hopefully they ignore it or something will happen.
Yeah, maybe they'll turn to him as a leader and be able to get through. So, my pick for this week was Cassidy, another Gaming Guild member. Some representation for the Brainiacs, I gotta say. A lot of focus has been on the Funky Flamingos, but Brainiacs can't be overlooked. Especially with Cassidy. She's doing a really good job with an approach of networking. Um, she's not talking to too many, but she's got a few people under her wing that she's really getting a good connection with. She's got Duncan, Izzy, and I believe there's one other castaway she's working with. I don't remember the name at the top of my head at the moment, but she's got some energy. If you watch her confessional, it's a fun read, especially when she got mad at Duncan last night for not submitting a score. And if you go through the tribe's chat, you can see her interacting and trying to get some, energy and encouragement with her tribe because they're not doing much yet. And it's going to really suck if they throw away so many people just because they can't get up and going. And I think Cassidy, along with those that she takes under her wing, will help bring the Brainiacs up a bit more.
Yeah. Well, that's all we have for this week. Thank you so much for watching. And oh my God, what's that? There's someone in the waiting room.
Wait, there is who? It's
Oh my God, it can't be. Is that Adam Weinberg? We have to go. We have to go.
okay, how do I get out of here? Crap.
Okay, stop